Long before the world was divided into nations with borders and flags, it was ruled by kings whose word was law and whose shadows stretched across entire empires. These kings were more than just rulers. They were symbols of power, ambition, cruelty, and sometimes wisdom that shaped the destiny of millions. Their palaces were built from stone and gold, their crowns glittered with jewels torn from conquered lands, and their names echoed through history like thunder across the mountains. One such king was known simply as the Lion of the East. His true name was lost to time, but every child in the villages beneath his mountains knew his legend. He was said to be a man who feared nothing, not sword, not storm, not even death itself. From the moment he claimed his throne, he declared that his kingdom would stretch from the deserts where the sun burned the sand to the icy rivers where even fire froze. He rode at the head of his army, dressed not in silk but in iron, his golden crown tied with leather so it would not fall in battle. Villages trembled when his banners appeared on the horizon, black cloth with the symbol of a roaring lion. But strangely, the people who survived his conquests often remembered him not only as a destroyer but also as a builder. He forced roads through wild lands, built wells where deserts killed, and demanded order where chaos once ruled. His enemies cursed his name, but his people whispered it in prayer. Such was the nature of old kings, both saviors and tyrants, saints and monsters. Far away, across oceans and mountains, another king ruled, a man of the north called the Winter King. Unlike the lion, he rarely fought his own battles with sword in hand. He was a master of patience, a spider who spun his web in silence. His kingdom was covered in snow and ice, yet his halls glowed with warmth from roaring fires and endless feasts. He did not win off bloodshed, but through clever marriages, secret alliances, and betrayals whispered in candlelit chambers. It was said that when he smiled, men lost kingdoms, and when he frowned, men lost their heads. His power was not built upon courage, but upon fear and cunning. Yet his people adored him, for while his rivals starved in their greed, he made sure the poorest farmer in his land had bread in winter. He knew that loyalty bought with kindness was far stronger than loyalty forced by the sword. But not all kings were wise or great. There were those whose names lived in infamy, like the Mad King of the South. His palace was the largest in the world, its walls painted with gold, its gardens filled with rare birds and flowers stolen from foreign lands. Yet inside those walls, terror reigned. He trusted no one, not even his own family. His nights were filled with screams, for he would execute servants at the smallest mistake, accusing them of plots and treason. His obsession with immortality drove him to experiment with strange elixirs and cruel rituals, seeking to escape death itself. In the end, it was not enemies from beyond his borders who destroyed him, but his own people. The soldiers who once guarded his throne turned their blades against him, tired of his madness. His palace, once a wonder of the world, was set aflame, and the Mad King's name became a curse parents used to frighten their children. Yet, for every king who ruled with terror, there was another remembered for mercy. King Aramir the Just was one such ruler. He inherited a broken land scarred by war. His advisors urged him to raise taxes, to squeeze the peasants until their last coin fell, to rebuild his army and strike back at his enemies. But Aramir refused. Instead, he walked among his people in disguise, learning their struggles, hearing their voices. He rebuilt villages with his own treasury, forgave debts, and gave farmland to soldiers returning from war. At first, his nobles laughed at him, calling him weak. But soon, his people began to fight not out of fear of punishment, but out of love for their king. When a massive invasion came from the west, Aramir's army stood vastly outnumbered. Yet his people, farmers and shepherds alike, picked up weapons and stood beside him. They fought not because they were ordered, but because they believed. Against all odds they won, and Aramir's name was carved into legend. To this day, songs speak of the just king who ruled with kindness instead of cruelty. Across centuries and continents, the stories of these old kings reveal one truth. Crowns are heavy and thrones are dangerous. To wear one was to invite both glory and ruin. Some kings were remembered as heroes, others as tyrants, but all of them were trapped by the same destiny. They could never live ordinary lives. Every decision they made shaped not just their own fate, but the fate of entire generations. In the end, time itself became the greatest conqueror. The Lion of the East lies beneath broken stones, his roads now dust. The Winter King's halls are empty, his webs torn apart. The Mad King's golden palace is nothing but ashes, and even the Just King's beloved songs fade slowly into silence. But perhaps that is what makes the tales of old kings so powerful. They remind us that no matter how great, how How terrible, how wise or cruel a man may be, all kings must bow to the same final ruler, death. And yet as long as stories are told by firelight, their names live on, for in the echoes of their triumphs and tragedies we see not only the history of kings, but the story of humankind itself, forever reaching for power, forever learning and forever remembering.